Christopher Nolan's The Odyssey is finally here, and it's massive. $250 million massive. Filmed across 8 countries on 3 continents, shot entirely on IMAX 70mm film, and based on a poem that's over 30 centuries old. This is Nolan's most expensive movie, his most ambitious movie, and the first time anyone has tried to bring Homer's epic to the big screen at this scale. But here's the question that's been rattling around my head since I left the cinema. Is it a masterpiece, or is it just very good? Let me explain. First, some context. Nolan started writing the script in March 2024, diving deep into multiple translations of Homer's ancient text. His goal was ambitious. He wanted to make the story feel both ancient and immediately relevant, accessible to modern audiences without losing the weight of its mythology. He saw the Odyssey as a foundational story that blends horror, mystery, romance, and thriller elements into something truly unique. And he was genuinely surprised that no major Hollywood studio had ever attempted a large-scale adaptation. That gap in movie history, he said, was odd, and he wanted to fill it. Shooting entirely on IMAX 70mm was no small feat. Nolan has used IMAX since The Dark Knight, but usually only for select scenes because the cameras are famously loud. They make recording dialogue a nightmare. For this film, his team developed lighter cameras and housed them in massive soundproof blimps that made them look like something straight out of Star Wars. And because each IMAX reel holds only about 3 minutes of film, actors had to pause during longer scenes while the crew reloaded, then pick up right where they left off. Imagine maintaining that emotional intensity while a robot-looking camera gets a film change. That's dedication. The press reviews so far have been glowing. The Guardian gave it 5 stars, calling it thrilling, bold, and generous. Empire agreed, awarding another 5 stars and calling it a monumental piece of work. The LA Times described it as a Trojan horse of Nolan's thematic obsessions: memory, identity, genius, and the slippage of time. The Hollywood Reporter was slightly more measured, saying it's uneven and doesn't quite match Oppenheimer's intellectual complexity, but praised its charismatic ensemble. So the critics are largely on board. But what about me? Let's talk about the story. It's been 20 years since Odysseus, played with typical gravitas by Matt Damon, left Ithaca for the Trojan War. He hasn't returned. His wife Penelope, portrayed by Anne Hathaway, is being pressured by a pack of arrogant suitors led by Robert Pattinson's Antinous to choose a new husband. Meanwhile, Odysseus's son Telemachus, played by Tom Holland, sets out to uncover the truth about his father's fate. The film cuts back and forth between timelines, unraveling Odysseus's perilous journey home, a journey filled with cyclopes, witches, sea monsters, and gods, while also tracking the growing threat in Ithaca. It's a classic epic structure, but Nolan layers his signature time manipulation on top, which keeps things interesting, even if you already know the story. Now, I'll be honest, I never read the original poem. We didn't study it in school, but I knew the beats because it's been referenced and adapted so many times over the years. What drew me to this film wasn't the source material, it was Nolan himself. The man has an extraordinary track record. The Dark Knight, Inception, Interstellar, Dunkirk, Oppenheimer. He's written and directed some of the best films of the past 2 decades. He's a traditionalist who loves shooting on celluloid, using practical effects, and pushing the IMAX format to its absolute limit. So I went in with high expectations. I watched The Odyssey in digital IMAX because, unfortunately, the 70mm screenings in London sold out months ago, so I'll have to wait to see it in its purest form. But even on digital, the quality was undeniable. The depth of field, the detail, the sheer scale of some of those establishing shots. It's impressive. But here's the thing. I wanted to be blown away, and I wasn't, not fully. Let me start with the positives because there are many. The performances across the board are strong. Matt Damon is reliably excellent. The guy just doesn't give bad performances. Anne Hathaway handles the emotional weight beautifully, projecting both strength and vulnerability as a queen who refuses to cave. And Robert Pattinson continues his streak of playing detestable characters with absolute relish. He's having a blast, and it shows. The production design is also top tier. Nolan used forced perspective miniatures to extend locations, a classic visual effects technique that grounds everything in reality. There's no obvious green screen here, No actors standing in front of fake backdrops. It all looks natural, like films used to look. Pure cinema. At 3 hours long, I never once felt the runtime. I wasn't checking my watch or getting restless. The film kept me engaged from start to finish. That's no small achievement, so why didn't it hit excellent for me? Here's my problem. Nolan doesn't seem to be having fun with the fantasy elements. There's a sequence with a giant that is genuinely terrifying. The sound design alone shook the cinema. But once the characters escape and the giant chases them through the trees, we barely see it. It's hidden, obscured, almost apologetic. I wanted to see more of the beast, to feel its size and menace. Then there's a whirlpool sequence followed by an attack from a tentacled monster that looked like elephant trunks, and it's so unclear what I was actually seeing that the moment just passed me by. It didn't look convincing, and it disappeared into the rock before I could even process it. There's some effective body horror later on with the witch Circe. That definitely earns its 15 certificate, but even then, it feels like Nolan is holding back, afraid to go too far into the surreal and lose his grip on realism. And that's the core issue. Nolan's entire career has been built on making the impossible feel grounded. Dreams have rules. Time travel has logic. Black holes have physics. But the Odyssey isn't asking for grounded. It's asking for mythic. It's asking for magic, mystery, and wonder. And Nolan, for all his genius, doesn't seem to trust that. The result is a film that's impressive, but rarely breathtaking. Compare it to Ridley Scott in his prime. If he had IMAX cameras, the result would blow your socks off. Nolan's visuals are beautiful, but they didn't floor me. There was no gasping moment, no incredible vista that made my jaw drop. It was good, but not spectacular. The score by Ludwig Göransson is a different story. Nolan wanted to avoid the traditional Hollywood orchestra sound, so they used ancient instruments like gongs and vocalists to create something timeless and haunting. There's a clever mix of old and new. The Penelope theme has an 80s synth vibe that evokes Tangerine Dream and Vangelis. But even here, I wanted more. There are moments where the score doesn't quite reach the emotional heights I was hoping for, and some tracks go a bit too experimental, just sound effects of things being hit, which aren't particularly interesting to listen to. That said, it's distinctive and refreshing compared to the forgettable Hans Zimmer knockoffs that plague modern blockbusters. Ultimately, the Odyssey is a fantastic achievement. The craftsmanship is undeniable. Nolan has brought an ancient story to life on a scale we rarely see anymore, and that deserves respect. He's in a rare position in Hollywood. He gets to make whatever he wants, and he uses that power to push boundaries. But I wish he would lighten up a little. I wish he would let himself have fun with the fantasy, embrace the weirdness, and not take everything so seriously. Because when you suck the sense of play out of a mythological adventure, you lose some of the magic that makes these stories special. Is it his best work? Not for me. Not yet, anyway. Maybe on a second or third viewing, my feelings will shift. But right now, the Odyssey ticks a lot of boxes. It's well acted, beautifully shot, and engaging throughout. But it doesn't quite give me the same satisfaction as The Dark Knight or Interstellar. It didn't leave me with that lasting impression I was hoping for. It's a really good movie, but with all the hype, all the IMAX cameras, and all the ambition, I wanted something unforgettable. And I'm still waiting for that moment. Anyway, if you made it this far, thank you. Don't forget to hit that like button if you enjoyed the video. It really helps the channel. And make sure you subscribe and hit the bell so you never miss a review. A massive thank you to my patrons and YouTube members for supporting this channel. I genuinely couldn't do this without you. I'll see you in the next one.